First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting us to Paris. We've come a long way just to participate in this conference, and of course, we're much thankful. I was asked to talk on the indigenous knowledge systems and practices in the Ifugao Rice Terraces in the Philippines. The Ifugaos are supposedly the most studied ethno-linguistic group in the Philippines, well, not only in the Philippines, but also perhaps in Southeast Asia. And maybe most of you would have heard about them as a people and their rice terracing culture. Ifugao civilization existed for not more than 2,000 years, but the rice terracing culture, which is perhaps 1,000 years old, still continues, and the Ifugaos are bent on preserving this their cultural landscape as a badge of their identity. So the first slide, to give context to the photo, this is one of the background photo is one of the rice terraces in the province. In the foreground are three of our remaining traditional priests, Mbaki, performing one of the remaining rice rituals also in the rice terraces. So the Ifugaos are located north of the Philippines. It's part of the Cordillera region. We have 4 municipalities that have inscribed sites. The municipalities of Banawe, Kiangan, Mayuyao, and Hungduan. We are doing the Ifugao Archaeological Project, and this is so far the only comprehensive academic research in the terraces that's now ongoing. The last archaeological research conducted in Ifugao was in the 1970s, and by the University of Georgia. But not much of their findings were conclusive. In fact, it's not being used even by so-called conservation agencies in the implementation of projects in the area. So far we have conducted 3 archaeological digs. First, in the purported Ifugao's oldest village, which is in Kiangan. We came up with a carbon date of 900 years old. So in Ifugao mythology, this particular Ifugao settlement is supposedly the source, or like the cradle of Ifugao culture. So even the hudhud, a declared oral intangible heritage of humanity, is said to have originated from this particular village, and it's only 900 years old. The terraces were originally planted to taro. This was also seen by the earlier researchers, and I think in most of Southeast Asia and the Pacific, taro was one of the basic and one of the primary source of carbohydrates for most people. It came up with at least a dating of 800 years. Rice appeared only between 1614 and 1800. And this coincides with the arrival of rice in the Philippines actually during when the Arabs were trading with the Filipinos. So as we can see here, the terraces came earlier than the rice. The terraces started with a different purpose, not basically for rice, but for taro. But after that, it has been rice. Perhaps in the future it will serve another purpose. But as of now, let's keep it that way. The traditional knowledge systems of the Ifugaos are, it's quite complicated, but somehow it's an entire system. It involves agriculture, natural resources management, labor relations, religion, and social organizations, which includes rituals and custom law. Most of the time, conservation agencies would only look at particular parts of the Ifugao Rice Terraces, not looking at it as a system. The forest has something to do with the rice paddies, and the rice paddies has something to do with the forest. And so will the water sources, the community, or the villages. Most of the government projects and even projects being conducted by UNESCO in the province, they would only focus most of their initiatives on the terraces, not giving much emphasis on the other parts like the forests and how the people are coping also with the different influences or the different changes that are confronting them. So the agricultural, the traditional agriculture of the Ifugaos will not only include rice production. It also includes Sweden farms and other production areas. These areas actually were in tune with the rice terraces. So whenever we say rice terraces, it's not just about rice. It also involves other crops planted in the rice terraces or in the forests. The Ifugaos very much understand the relationship of maintaining a watershed and maintaining the rice fields. The rice traditionally planted by the Ifugaos has to be submerged in water all year round. I mean, the rice terraces would have to have water on it the whole time. So the sources of water and the maintenance of the sources of water is very much understood science of the Ifugaos. Another thing, also one component of Ifugao traditional knowledge that has evolved through time is how the labor relations in the communities, in terraces communities have evolved. We know for a fact that rice production requires demographic pressure. Not a village having a population of, say, 20 people cannot come up with a complex system of rice terraces. So how the system developed has had to include a lot of people working together as members of a particular community in the maintenance of these rice terraces. Through all these, community values have evolved. Political hierarchies have developed, and perhaps also social stratification. Along with the development of the traditional agriculture is also the development of the Ifugao religion, if I may say. Later on, I'm going to explain how rice affects everything, including the spirituality of the Ifugaos. But somehow, part and parcel of Ifugao indigenous practices would have to include the rituals that they perform during the entire cycle of their of the growing seasons of the rice. In this photo, you will see that there are 3 photos actually. 2 men carrying rice bundles, bringing them to the rice granaries, and below it is a group of men during the land preparation stage, repairing the rice paddies before being planted before it's planted to the rice seedlings. Rice controls all the activities in the village. The seasons of the rice would dictate the time to go hunting, the time to maintain, go fix the forest, the time for women to do their weaving, or for men to go to war in the olden days. But even now, all other activities in rice terraces communities can only be dictated by the rice. Back to the traditional agriculture of the Ifugaos. This is actually one reason why it's inscribed as a World Heritage Site is the land use, the traditional land use of the Ifugaos. The rice terraces, as we all know, like it's the most visible facet of the entire rice terraces system. Entire mountains are carved or stone-walled by ancient Ifugaos to come up with flooded pond fields, getting water from not necessarily from above the mountains, but it can come from several kilometers away. There are Sweden farms along along privately owned forests would also contribute to their subsistence, because it's also the source of food whenever there's shortage of rice. So the Sweden farms are mostly planted to sweet potatoes and other legumes. There are two kinds of Ifugao forests. One is privately owned and the other is communally owned. When we say communal, it's not public. It's communal. It's, well, in one sense, it's also private because it is to the exclusion of other communities. It's a unique feature of of Ifugao land rights. The agroforests or the muyung, these are privately owned by families, and only them are entitled to this particular to the resources that can be gathered from these private forests. The communal forest is owned only by the communities that claim it, and only those in that particular community can avail of the resources. Custom law is very strong in terms of maintenance and the harvesting of resources from these two kinds of forests. Somehow this has kept the balance in the Philippines. This is not directly recognized by the government. The ownership of forests, particularly in Ifugao, is legally vested in the state, in the government. But the assertion of the Ifugaos of their the primacy of their claim over their forests is quite strong. So somehow the government is not that strict in claiming it as part of the property of the state. So far, we have not heard of any major logging concessions in Ifugao province, which is opposite in most areas where private logging companies are totally denuding several hundreds of hectares of forests. The maintenance also of plant varieties, not only in the rice terraces, but particularly so in the forest, is one hallmark of Ifugao traditional knowledge when it comes to biodiversity and ecological balance. The knowledge of the Ifugaos of the different kinds of plants and animals in their environment is actually more accurate than most botanists who would do their research in the area. One time in one of the major universities in the Philippines, the University of the Philippines in Los Baños, they had to send their students to the province to it's like a field work to check on the biodiversity of the remaining Ifugao forests. they had to conduct a seminar on it's called the assisted natural regeneration. From what I heard, it's a particular subject in forestry, in the course of forestry. But the elders were talking, were present during the presentation of these university students, and they were like, "Oh yes, but we already know about what you're talking about. It's just that you're using different terms." Well, it's only recently that major researchers from that particular university focused on the traditional knowledge and the Ifugao, their knowledge, their expertise, their mastery of the forests. And now the university is also trying to harness this knowledge by actually bringing in their students to the province for months on end to actually work with elders or to knowledge bearers. In the Ifugao Rice Terraces, men do the heaviest work and women do the most work. Sometimes it's quite unfair whenever we hear of especially development agencies when they talk about women always doing the work in the terraces. It's like they're slaves in the terraces, but that's not how, looking closely at how it works, this is like the simplest way to describe it. Men do the heaviest work and women do the most work, because most work could involve maintenance like weeding, planting, and harvesting. This used to be the exclusive domain of women in the rice terraces. The repairs of stone walls and rice paddies and the carrying of rice bundles back to the rice granary it's also the domain of the men. Well, yes, most of the time it would be the women who are in the rice fields, but if you ask where the men are, they would be in the homes taking care of children. It's a unique facet of the Cordillera region in the Philippines, where child rearing is both a responsibility of men and women. So it's not rare for Cordillerans and particularly for Ifugaos, for men to be actually taking care of babies while their spouses are working in the rice fields. So it's a shared responsibility. This character is actually prevalent in indigenous peoples areas. Oh, I have 5 minutes left. I'll make it fast. Okay. Religion and social organization. My colleague will be talking about Ifugao rituals for session 2, I think, tomorrow. So I'll not dwell on this. Disappearing knowledge systems. Earlier on, most of the speakers were talking about the changes in standardization of in what's happening in France, but it's also the same thing in the Philippines. Ifugao is an indigenous people's area, and yet we've always been victim of national policies, so-called the implementation of standardized policies. When the government implemented had the first Green Revolution program in the 1970s, they introduced new lowland rice varieties in the areas without thinking of its consequences on rituals. We don't do rituals if what's planted is the lowland rice. We don't do rituals if what we're harvesting is the rice from the government. So the introduction of these new rice varieties actually also exterminated all the rituals that accompany our rice culture. Well, this was just taken a week ago. When the government was, they are constructing these roads, crossing all the provinces, connecting municipalities. The Department of Public Works is not working well with the National Commission for Culture and the Arts. So Below this road are extensive rice terraces and irrigation ditches that have been covered with soil because of the road construction. Well, it's not part of the responsibility of the public works to take care of heritage sites. So they said, well, let the NCCA, the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, take care of it. But somehow it has affected a lot of our heritage areas, all these road constructions. So before I end, I would like to show you some of the photos of the different declared sites in Ifugao province. So as I've mentioned earlier, we have 4 municipalities. So this is the Nagakadan Rice Terraces in Kiangan. This is just one part of, because Hungduan, the municipality of Hungduan has the widest declared area. The entire municipality, in fact, is a declared area. The Batad Rice Terraces in Banawe, the first of 2. The Bangaan Rice Terraces, also in the municipality of Banawe. The Mayuyao Rice Terraces in the east. Well, this is not a World Heritage Site, but it's one of the most iconic. If you come to the Philippines and go to Ifugao, probably this is the first one you're going to see. And if I may just mention, until now, the number 1 tourist arrivals for foreign tourists are French. There are still more French tourists than South Koreans. So I think we have a bond there. Thank you.